We're recording.
Oh, I like that Keely likes to sing before the recording in the hopes that
Yeah,
he
I've
can
sang
take
many
off.
times. He can use it.
In the hopes that I will use it for the cold open, but I never
Exactly.
do.
So he can kick off his music career through this podcast.
I specifically use things that are embarrassing to Killy, and none of it's his good singing. He keeps trying to do
You have
it
to
too.
do like this. Jimmy, Jimmy, Jimmy. Acha, acha,
Alright,
acha.
no, that's a good one. Welcome to Fear of Stairs, Desi Films Decoded, the podcast where four friends from different backgrounds unlock the world of Desi cinema. I'm Winnie the Desi who's never been to India.
Hi, I'm Killy. I'm from India and I love films. I'm like the film enthusiast.
Why don't you sing it?
Yeah, I'll say it again, please, Adam.
Yeah,
Okay,
just sing it.
yeah. Hi, I'm Killy. I'm from India. I'm shit. What did I say?
It's like the hardest part in the whole
Is
podcast.
saying who you are that you've done 11
Hi.
times now.
Hi, I'm Killy. I'm the film enthusiast from India.
Hi, I'm Nikki. I'm from Thailand, and my name rhymes with Jimmy.
That's a really good point. I'm Adam. I'm the American, and today I learned that guitarphobia is real and it affects dozens of us every year, and we should all be more aware of it.
So today's film is a 1980s film called Disco Dancer. It is one of the cheesiest movies in Fear of Stairs history that we've ever watched. And we did know about it to some degree, thanks to in the past we watched this movie called Delhi Belly, and in that movie there was like a character that was obsessed with this movie called Disco Fighter, which Keely has I remember Keely briefly mentioning that it was inspired by an actual movie, and it's this movie that we're covering called Disco Dancer. And Disco Dancer has apart from the cheesy action scenes and the cheesy acting, the ham-fisted revenge story, there's also this movie also has like a very memorable soundtrack that doesn't extend just beyond Bollywood, but also to Russians as well, surprisingly. As we'll soon find out.
Yeah, Killy mentioned Disco Dancer and said like we should possibly see it in the future, and the Delhi Belly character was based off Disco Dancer. It's like, okay, that's cool, and I think Killy showed us the poster. I'm like, that looks kind of rad. And then I was getting into like the Desi film scene in Blue Sky, like the Twitter clone, and I saw someone. I was chatting with someone that had the Disco Dancer background. I was like, oh hey, like we're thinking about doing that, and she was this British Indian. And she's like, oh, I'm obsessed with this movie. She's like, it was actually huge in the USSR. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I had no idea of this history. And I'm friends with some Russians. We watched Russian movies together. And I asked them, like, have you heard of this movie, Disco Dancer? And they're like, oh, yeah. And they started singing the song right away. And they're 39 years old. And she said, like, I think my parents were conceived, like, watching this movie. I think I was conceived while my parents were watching this movie. It was, like, a gigantic cultural hit, and they were all, like, dancing to the songs, and, like, the Russians just, like, grew up with it if you were born during the USSR. So then I was, like, fascinated. And then this user on Blue Sky mentioned a book, which we can talk about later. But then, yeah, so I read this whole book about kind of Indian films in the USSR. And it was great. And then the user was like, oh, check out your podcast. It sounds like right up my alley. And then she never got back to me and then ignored me. And I messaged her a few times when I was like, hey, the book was really good. And then she ignored me. And then I was like, hey, so we watched the movie and I loved it. And she ignored me. So I think this person hates our podcast and doesn't want any association with us. So I'm not going to shout out her name. But I still want to thank her because she turned me on to a really good book. And without her, I don't think we would have watched this movie. So thank you to her, and I hope you find a better podcast that you like. Feel free to reach out anytime if you are listening. I don't think about it or anything. Anyways, Killy, what's your background with this?
Yeah, so the Disco Dancer is, played by a Bengali actor called, his name is Mithun Chakraborty. So Mithun is kind of became synonymous with disco dancer. So I was hearing his interviews and stuff like that, and he tells that wherever he travel, like outside of India, like people know him as disco dancer. Like in the airport, like he was be recognized as the disco dancer. So the term disco dancer kind of becomes his identity. For a Bollywood film in 1980s, it came out on 19 it was released on 1982, right? So this film is the first Bollywood film that had dance at the center stage of it. Like Bollywood had dances before in the films, but to be the dance as a main hooking point of the film, dance and music, this is the first one. And so I was also researching like who was the choreographer. So it seemed like there was no choreographer. Mithun himself like came up with the dance moves that he wanted to do, and he would send it to the director, and then director would agree on like whatever steps that goes on screen, and then they will take it from there. So
you can kind of tell, like, there's no group dance numbers or
yes,
anything. It's kind of individuals doing their thing.
Yeah, it's kind of all haphazard, and it's not a group choreography.
It wasn't great dancing.
It was not great dancing, but I think it's the attitude towards dancing.
Isn't he like the disco king of Bollywood?
Yeah, so
he's supposed to be the best dancer, like in the
he's
world.
the best. He's really good dancer. Like he inspired dancers to do choreography for screens. Maybe like because they thought like, oh, that should be corrected.
This seems so easy to do. I think we could all do this.
So I read that this actually inspired a lot of like local tournaments in schools and just random local events where people would either have disco dance offs or like try to imitate Muthin's dance moves, and there'd be prizes and stuff. So like it did seem like he was quite influential and iconic. Like Killy, in your school, did you ever have any disco dance or dance offs?
No.
Was this actor was he able to break out of that role and be in other big hits and stuff?
Yeah, he had few good hits up on his sleeves, and also like he was very known because of few of his very art house film he was in. I mean, he's a known actor. He's not only disco dancer, but he had the identity that he is the first dancer hero.
Yeah.
Was he ever like typecasted as a disco dancer in other movies?
I think he did another film called Dance Dance by the same director.
Oh, there you go.
So, but I don't think he has been typecasted. But he was a great action hero.
Okay, yeah.
He was a good action hero. Like he had done action films. Like so what I got kind of from this film is that like people from outside of India knows Bollywood for its dance numbers, right? Like dance and music. But back in those days, there were a dance, but I think what disco dancer did is like it's kind of broke the monotony of the similar dance form that was being on screen and kind of brought up.
It brought like modern music, I feel too, because it wasn't like old like Indian music that they're dancing to. It's like modern music and modern dance, and there's like sleeves that are cut, skin is showing in like with like modern clothes, not traditional clothes.
It was
So
basically like Western disco into Bollywood for the first time.
And it's brought kind of sassiness to the whole thing.
Everything that Saturday Night Fever did in America, in with John Travolta and stuff, seems like the same thing happened with Disco Dancer in India and USSR. Winnie, did you have any knowledge of this film?
Not at all. So I didn't even know. So Nikki knew about it for the music, and I had never heard of it before. Like, so I'm surprised that it's such a mega cult classic, even like globally, not just in India.
Your mom never mentioned it?
No, I mean it's like way before my time. I think it's probably the oldest Bollywood film that we've discussed on this podcast and that I've watched before. But no.
The USSR aspect was a surprise because Adam's not joking. Like when you go on YouTube to look up the music, like all the comments are just flooded with people giving like anecdotes about how, when they were living in the US in Russia, it was like very influential, or like their parents loved it. The influence is massive.
Yeah, well, so let's break down. What's the plot? We'll do the plot and then we'll do the context.
Well, to put it simply, it's your typical revenge story of a mama's boy trying to avenge his mom. Basically, it stars this kid called Anil, and he's like basically this like street dancer. He's like giving joy to people through the power of music, and then he stumbles upon this rich man, evil record producer named P.N. Oberoi.
He has the weirdest name.
It's a weird name.
Oberon.
No,
Oberian?
Oberoi is a very known business cast
Oh,
people.
okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. P.N. Oberoi is just being a dick and accused Anil, who's just like this street dancer, right, of thievery. And in the midst of it all, he even struck Anil's mom, who was trying to intervene. He strikes Anil's mom in the most dramatic fashion possible, like the utter disrespect kind of thing. And then, since this man is a powerful record producer, he accused Anil's family of thievery, and they were like literally outcasted from Bombay, I believe. I think it takes place in Bombay.
Yeah.
And then, it's the shame consumes them, right? And his mother, instead of, Anil was accused of thievery, right? But then his mother takes the fall, and she basically spends time in prison. And that's when, Anil, his entire life is motivated by a thirst for revenge. And how does he enact this revenge? Through the power of disco dancing. Yes. And yeah, he just comes back and he rebrands himself as this man named Jimmy, and it's like another underdog story, rags to riches kind of thing, where he's just coming in like unknown guy coming in to win the hearts of people. In this case, disco dancing, and he becomes a disco star, and he spends like his whole adult life trying to make P.N. Oberoi's life miserable.
He has such a singular focus, which is what I really like about him. He has he has one singular memory, which is his mom getting hit by this one rich man, and so his whole life is consumed with like this crazy vengeance, where he just destroys this man's life systematically, and I really enjoy just how focused he is on that. He has a relentless hatred for this man, and the movie has like a very singular hatred of rich people in general.
Yeah, I cannot describe to the audience right now, but if you do ever check out this movie, like every line of dialogue this man spouts out of like revenge and hatred is like the most vindictive, at its most vindictive and also cheesiest. It's like super cheesy. It's like very campy, I guess.
But at the same time, he doesn't come off as a character who's like overly aggressive or violent. He's just like
his violence
like vengeance
and
and like dance is his form of rebellion.
And it comes from love. He loves his mom.
Right,
He wants to his mom took the fall for him, so the mom went to jail. The mom became deeply embarrassed in her village. They had to go to Goa in exile. He just feels deep shame, and he comes back. But some of the quotes he gives is just like, because he doesn't talk a lot. But when he does, he's just like sniping at this guy.
I want to go to Goa for exile.
I'm not known for your money, but for my talent. You may have money and power, but I have a voice. Your betrayals and schemes will not end my music. With money, you cannot win hearts, nor can you buy a voice. Disco is a feeling that cannot be bought with money. This is basically just this is just what he says when he opens his mouth every time. It's like, I'm crazy talented. I'm going to destroy you, and money means nothing to me. Every time he talks, and it's pretty baller.
Yeah. So while that was happening, P.N. Oberoi has a son. He's he's like the current disco king in this movie. He's like, I forgot his name, but basically he has like an attitude problem. He's a dick to his manager
And a drug addict.
A dick to his manager, David Brown, who we learn of his name many times throughout the movie. And David Brown, because he's tired of this guy walking all over him, he decides to like go out on the street and look at hobos. I'm just kidding. He finds Jimmy like just. Was he drunk? He was like drunkenly walking.
He's just
skipping along the road.
So it's pitch black. So David Brown walks home and he's like, fuck this alcoholic rich kid. Because the rich kid's like, I don't want to travel to this concert. I'm going to fuck this girl that's with me right now. And the dude's like, okay, you're ruining your career. I don't want to work with you. I'm going to go find someone else. Walks along the street to go home. It's pitch black. he sees this dude on a bridge just kind of skipping.
Yeah.
The guy's not dancing. He's not like doing anything too showy. He's just dancing along a bridge at night. And he's like, I found my superstar.
And there's just a lamppost shining on him like a stage light. It's quite a cinematic shot, actually.
Yeah, but he's not good. You're not looking at that being like, that's a good dancer.
I don't know. It's like that scene. Okay, this is a weird comparison, but like, remember in A Bug's Life when Flick was like looking for his bug warriors, and then he went to this like bar, and then like there was chaos ensued, and then like the circus troupe performers sprung out with the light shining on them. It was like that.
It was exactly like that.
It was exactly like that.
It was exactly like when Flick discovered the circus performers in It's a Bug's Life. Okay, so David sees the guy dancing on a bridge, says, that's my guy. He's going to be the biggest star ever. And he is, instantly.
Yeah,
right?
with...
Even though they were trying to throw tomatoes at him in his first performance, right?
Because of his cast, right? Pretty much.
No, because he's a hobo. Like
they know that.
No, the son paid his girlfriend.
No, not girlfriend. His sister.
Yes.
His sister was actually sabotaging and like instigating the hatred towards the new performer. And that they were like, oh, we came here for the big star. Who is this hobo?
They kept calling him a hobo.
Yeah.
Hobo.
Yeah.
Which is this a translation thing? Like, because hobo is like a guy that is on the train and stuff, but in India does it mean?
No, I think they were saying hobo by itself, like sarak chap or something like that. Like like someone from the streets, like.
Yeah, they were very hobophobic.
Yeah.
They didn't like hobosexuals.
Yeah, at all. Yeah. And later she falls in love with.
No, in that same performance, right? Well, you see the chemistry spark from there, where she's
like, he was
throwing tomatoes at him. Yeah, but then like
he was winning her over. Using the power of disco dance.
But if you watch enough Bollywood films, you'll know that the way it was set up, they're gonna fall in love at some point. From that first dance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was stealing. So Rita is the girl's name. She's the daughter of P.N. Oberoi, and we get this scene where they like, they're like we said, their relationship blossoms, and Jimmy even gets a chance to like do this mega Chad move where they go out on a date and they come back and he sees the father watching over from the balcony and then he notices that, so he takes the chance to just make out with her.
It was so ballsy.
It was just like, wow. Like it's like a cuck move, but he's not the guy, it's the father.
He's cucking her dad. And like that's pretty ballsy, number one, just I think for like an Indian film in the 80s, and then also for this poor kind of outcast to do this in front of like this rich scummy landlord just to say fuck you, basically. Like the kid could lose everything, but he just instinctively hates this guy so much and just wants to ruin his life above all else. Yeah,
that's his biggest motivation. I mean, okay, so this was the girl like who invited Mithun when they were like kid, and that starts the whole thing, like of his father's misbehavior and everything. So she was kind of his fan when he was like a street singer. And used to sing about how this world belongs to everyone, not only to the whites or the blacks. The world belongs to the people with hearts, big hearts.
Yeah, the opening song is a very hippie song of like the world belongs to all of us. It doesn't matter what skin color you have.
Yeah,
and then they're right, because welcome to the new international world order where it's about money, not skin color. So they can all agree on that. But he hops into a landlord's mansion and then he hits his mom.
Yeah.
So
it's a reality check, in other words.
Yeah, like sure, do your hippy dippy shit, but I'm still richer than you, and I can control your life.
Well, I see. Okay, so this guy, so Jimmy's on his way to get revenge. He gets the girl. He's a disco superstar, and I actually see parallels to the last movie we watched, Sarpata, where it's always like the hero gets his comeuppance, he's on the rise, and then something tragic has to happen. And for Disco Dancer's case, is basically P.N. Oberoi asked this hitman to like amp up the guitar to like 5,000 volts through his amplifier, and then like Jimmy's mom finds out of the assassination attempt. So in true Bollywood fashion, she rushes to save his life at the cost of her own life. So like when Jimmy was about to pick up this guitar, like his mom was like making this trek all the way to the concert, runs up the stage and grabs the guitar before Jimmy could. And, she takes the 5,000 volts of electricity through her body, and that's how she dies.
Instantly.
She dies instantly, and I was like, I don't know. That's one way to go out on.
They thought that the best way to kill Jimmy was to, like, amp up a guitar, which is assuming that, like, no roadie will touch it, that Jimmy himself will plug in this guitar in front of an entire auditorium. I feel like there'd be easier ways to kill this guy.
But there is like this another thing, because the earlier performance, Jimmy was barely touching any guitar.
Yeah, he doesn't play guitar.
He doesn't play guitar, and never ever, and even after this performance, never ever I saw the electric guitarist actually plugged in. They were just like strolling with the electric guitar without being plugged in, and music comes out. Oh, and the first song, like when he was a kid, he was literally playing a toy guitar, right? The plastic toy guitar, and bringing melodious harmony from that guitar.
Yeah.
Actually, if you think about it, guitars have ruined his life, because even when he was a kid, he got accused of theft of the young girl's guitar. And that's how his mom gets hit and ends up in jail. And then when he's an adult, his mom touches the guitar and he dies.
It ruins her life.
Yes,
It's a foreshadowing.
The guitar always hurts the mom.
So the guitarphobia is.
And the guitar is a phallic object, so the guitar represents, like, penis.
No, I don't know
like
that.
of a widower? His mom's a widow.
So anytime he tries to utilize it, the mom hurts because it's him being his own adult man, and she cannot deal with that, and she finally tries to rob him of this.
No, it's not that kind of film.
I went to film school too, Tilly.
That's a bar.
This is like when the poet says that the curtains are blue, and you take it to a whole nother level.
I think it's pretty canonical. I think we can all agree that the guitar's a penis.
No, the penis doesn't have music.
So Jimmy's not known for, it's not called disco guitar player. Like, he's known for dancing. He barely plays guitar, but they base their whole assassination off him playing the guitar. The mom, jumps on stage, dies. Jimmy's life is ruined.
He goes into a deep depression, like most heroes.
He goes into his Kanye mode.
And he
gets
has
his legs broken.
And he has guitarphobia. Yeah.
Yes.
He has guitarphobia.
That's the word of the day.
He cannot touch his guitar again.
And he only realizes this on stage when he's about to perform and they hand him the guitar and he freaks out.
Pussy. Yeah, I think then later on he gets his legs broken by Oberoi men, and he was stated to perform this like international disco competition. It was supposed to be like his comeback, and they were sure that he was gonna win, but Jimmy's at his lowest point, and then we get like Rita trying to sing this very iconic song, Jimmy Aaja.
Jimmy, Jimmy, Aaja, Aaja, Aaja. Jimmy, Jimmy, Aaja, Aaja, Aaja.
Jimmy, Jimmy, Aaja, Aaja, Aaja.
That's it.
Which MIA sampled later.
Yes, Sri Lankan British rapper MIA did like a cover remix. I heard that version first.
Yeah, me too.
I think I heard it for the first time when You Don't Mess with the Zohan.
Oh, it was there too.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's the soundtrack of the final fight scene
No
that Adam
way.
Sandler has. So they're quite popular.
Wow.
And this,
influential.
really
and in
influential.
Bangkok, like I've heard this music being sampled so many times. Yeah.
Interesting.
But there is a lot of like disco influences. So like the Jimmy song is actually influenced by another song that I think where's it from?
It's a French disco.
French disco song.
Yeah.
And then there was another song that I think Rita was singing it. Yeah, but like that song, it sounded like Video Killed the Radio Star, and then we later find out that they did also take inspiration. So all these like disco influences, it's no coincidence. They're actually like taking hits from other countries.
They're being very relevant. They're taking like their finger is on the pulse of the international scene, and they are taking music that's popular in other places and coalescing it into this film, which is pretty good.
So, Nikki, you mentioned that you went on YouTube and you saw a bunch of comments about Russia. Was it on this music video?
Yes.
Jimmy Aaja?
Yeah, Jimmy Aaja. Like when you go on YouTube right now, there's a lot of comments. about people saying that this song is more popular in Russia than it is in India, or like, oh, my mom heard it when she lived in the USSR.
Yeah.
It's
We'll
anecdotes
get
like
into
that.
that later. So what happens at the end? What's the finale?
So Rija was trying to get him to perform again, and then I think and also as Jimmy's like old musician friend tried to like hype him up and get back into it, but so Jimmy gives off this like final performance on stage, and before the celebration could be had for his victory, Oberoi's men came in and then shoot up the place. Jimmy's friend dies in the process, and then that was like the last straw for Jimmy, right? So this is like the climax of the movie where he's like, okay, his disco powers are now coming into Super Saiyan mode, and he drives a car, crashes into P.N. Oberoi's like headquarters.
His house or something, right?
Villain like mansion.
No, motel.
Motel.
It says
It's
PN
hard to tell
Oberoi's
that.
motel.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then you get like this.
The guy's just so ballsy nonstop. He's just like, I'm gonna drive this car to this hotel.
He's like invincible. He rams his car through the hotel room or mansion or whatever it is where all the villains were. It gets into a fight, and then you get like he gets all like acrobatic, which is like it's like poorly done. I don't know. I can't help but notice how like the people were just like every hit that this guy makes has no impact.
Yeah.
It's just like very weak punches, but then you have your like cheesy sound effects.
Well, if there was no dance choreographer, there definitely wasn't a fight choreographer. So it's these guys just making up their own fight choreography.
Yeah, like he was like just flailing people around, like throwing people around.
There was that one guy that just shoots off the screen. Remember,
Yeah.
he just like flies across the street and stuff. That was fun.
Yeah. So everyone dies, and then Jimmy is now the disco king, and that's it. That's all. That's all there is to the movie.
Yeah,
There's not a lot to go on.
he commits violence
no,
and kills his enemies, and then he reigns supreme with the love of music and disco.
Does
Yeah.
he end up with Rita?
I don't.
Yeah, of course.
We did see like a quick shot of them. Like,
Yeah, she was his girlfriend.
Well, I mean, but there was a scene where she yells at him on stage.
Yeah,
because he
but
was
I
not
think
able
she
to
was
perform.
repenting like when later on, like as soon as like the performance started, she was repenting. She was crying for being so harsh on him and stuff
Okay,
like
so
that.
he
So I think
actually-
she would be forgiven. Yeah.
So he got back at the wealthy man in all ways possible, including marrying
He
his
banged the
daughter.
guy's daughter, killed his son,
Yeah, with no nothing. Like I love
and he
these,
got to claim disco crown. The dude fucking rules.
yeah, like
No, I
these,
mean-
these Bollywood movies, they just end abruptly. Once the conflict is solved, it just ends.
And the same in this movie, where like the whole plot, in like the last half an hour, everything escalates, intensifies, and it ends.
And it always turns to like he's like doing, they're doing the music and that all escalates, but then finally it's just like, we just gotta fight, and then he just becomes like a good fighter somehow because he's good at dancing and just punches everyone.
No,
Yeah.
in Bollywood heroes have to be good. They have to be good at everything. Like they have to be good at dancing. They have to go with fighting, driving cars.
I can drive a car in a building.
Yeah, jump off buildings and then like wooing women. Like they have to be good at everything.
Singing, I felt cheated when I found out that they're not the actual ones singing the song. Like there's somebody
This
else
is
singing.
some people, like some theologians brought out that how it's kind of similar to the how like we see the god Krishna, like
Oh.
who is like a womanizer, good at dancing, good at fighting, like
Holy
a
shit.
charismatic, very charismatic figure, right? So the Bollywood heroes are kind of come from that thing, like they have to be good at everything kind of thing.
Interesting.
Like not only fighting, not only like romancing, they have to be good in everything. That's what make you a star. That's
Does
what
that
make you like a
contribute
Bollywood hero.
to them being like idolized and seeing like people worshiping them? Is it because there is an element of like
Yeah, there
This
is
is
an element of
godlike
like godlike
talent.
element because they cannot be failure. They cannot fail at something. They have to be good at everything. Like if they're playing tennis, they have to be the best player in tennis. Like
That puts unbelievable expectations on you, the viewer. Does it not?
Yeah.
Does
If
it
you,
not set you up for failure to be like all these flawless heroes I'm growing up with watching on the screen? Does that not affect your behavior in some way?
I think so. It does. It does. And then people who are a bit narcissistic, they think they can do anything. I think if a kid is
Yeah.
narcissistic and then he watches this Bollywood film and can relate to the heroes, I think they can see themselves as like unfallible person, like who cannot.
Does that mean you think that most of the heroes in Bollywood are portrayed as narcissistic?
No, they are not narcissistic.
Okay.
Yeah,
But only narcissists would think that they too can achieve that.
maybe. Yeah.
You
Everyone
know.
else knows it's fictional.
But it does seem to put, like we talk about like, women having to compare themselves to like extreme body, presentations and stuff. But these men in these like have to compare themselves to these flawless male characters. Do they not feel shortcomings after? I don't know.
No.
Is this not a thing that they discuss? Do they feel like insecure as men because they cannot be these flawless figures?
Yeah. Maybe it brings it creates an unhealthy expectations of people of like that they make of themselves.
I just
It
think if
might
you're
be,
staring
yeah.
at like superhero people all day, you see them in the tabloids and they're super rich. It's just very high standards on what.
But I've
they
rarely
think
seen
males should
like but people usually take up one aspect of their characteristics. Like either they think they're like a very good womanizer. They think they're
I'm the best womanizer.
yeah. I mean, they think the women are mad for them. They can think that okay, I'm a good dancer. They can think, oh, I'm a good fighter. I think I've seen people focusing on a singular aspect of the multitude of the character. Yeah.
So did a lot of people try to impersonate Mithun after this movie? This
Yeah,
film
yeah. I
came
mean, there
out?
are
Like,
impersonator
there's a lot of,
everywhere.
like, Elvis impersonators. Is
Oh
there the same
yeah.
movement in
Bollywood
India?
heroes have always had like so many impersonator. So I was listening to this dance, like a really good dancer and choreographer, and he was a hero back in his time a little bit. Prabhudeva, he's like the dancer actor from Indian film. Like he comes from Tamil film industry, and then he worked in Bollywood for Bollywood as well. So he was saying that when he was a kid, he was inspired by Mithun, like this disco dancer film, like how much this film was an inspiration to him. So his father was the director of a Tamil remake of this film, so he was very close to the actual content. So he said that the style, that Mithunda's style, is something that he really, like, all of them looked up to. So I kind of didn't realize like what is he referring to, what is his style. Then when he did that steps, I realized that it's that sassiness that he walks in, and the I mean, that in today's context might look weird, like, but in those days context, that those moves were like kind of catchy for people to get that, like, oh, a hero is not just doing old school type, like like Adam mentioned, it brings a kind of modernity to the Bollywood dance. So I think those things, those groundedness of the movement kind of brought in, like, inspired people a lot. And later on, this guy was like terrific dancer, and then many dancer actually has referred Mithun as their inspiration for being a dancer actor. Yeah.
So yeah, give us the context for like like set the scene.
Okay, so in 70s and 80s Bollywood, this thing that where the revenge flick, where the poor guy and rich guys are villain, they are bad people. Poor guys are harassed, like doing they're wronged in some ways, and they come up and they say like most excruciating stuff towards the rich people for them being rich and looking down upon their poor people, and eventually get revenge. I mean, that was the most common Bollywood trope in that days, like in those days. Even if you see nowadays, okay, maybe the percentage has gone lower, but still there are so many films that where this kind of theme is still intact, that okay, we are going against the rich people are the bad. Now it's more sugar coated, and they do something else, some armed deals like Jawan or something.
I feel like rich people are villainized.
No.
Like since Keijo.
Yeah, Keijo made the
glorified
rich people glorify.
Right.
Yeah, but in those days, I have seen so many Bollywood films where the rich people are villain. I mean, their villainness come from their riches.
And what's going on historically in India at the time? Like, why is that the view? Why?
I mean, that time India was kind of like trying to build a socialist kind of structure, economic
'cause-
structure.
Sorry, independence was when? 75?
It's 47.
47?
Yeah, this is still India was a kind of in a like a socialist tryout phase. The neo globalization was not a thing that happened in the economy, and the whole my parents' generation, they were taught that like if you work without thinking of the wealth, the nation, it's the phase of nation building, so it will pay off one day. So all of them were like, they were not, I mean, since there was a socialist tendency, so people who had like certain jobs and stuff like that. I mean, we're still talking about a certain percentage of people who are like top 10, 20% of people. We're still not talking about the farmers or like bottom 80% of the people. But still, in this class of people, there was a hope that, okay, like if we work, it will pay off, and the country will grow as become a rich country and one day. So this nation building project had always the scope of like money and being rich is not in the major focus of it. And and it's still the kind of the socialist tendency was in place. Banks were being nationalized, the airlines were nationalized, the steel factories. So in a broad scale intellectual sphere, socialism was prevailing a lot. So the theme would come again and again into films and everywhere.
But
Where
there's still a huge inequality.
Yeah,
So
while
what's going on with that?
I mean that inequality was always there. So this is the like the cognitive dissonance everyone faced at that point of time. Like while the country is talking about it, while the intellectuals are talking about it, but I mean there is still inequality, and I mean it kind of brings in the failure of leftist struggle a bit. The left intelligentsia kind of came from a kind of a richer background, and they don't realize what is going on the ground level, how much they could reach to the poor and stuff like that. So this was like
And
those
I know
days.
caste was like abolished, but it wasn't. I mean, I
Which
don't
one?
think appropriate measures weren't taken to like eradicate it, right?
No, like there were never a very bold move to eradicate poverty. There was one time that thing was happening, was the redistribution of
Land.
farmland. Yeah, so that was the only one most radical move that
I
Indian
heard they
government
tried
did.
that, but it never actually got implemented very
Yeah,
well.
very few state actually implemented that. Like West Bengal did it, Kerala maybe did it a bit. Like where the Communist Party, they were kind of very leftist at that point. Like at least they're in their purview of the politics, they were leftist. They kind of implemented redistribution of the land. And another state that did it well was Kashmir. Kashmir redistributed land a lot. So apart from those states, I don't know about Punjab. Punjab might have done a bit more than the other states. So like it was not very successful, but it was at least taken up by the central government, and it was upon the state government to implement it, and it kind of failed in most of the
Yeah.
places. It kind of got worked up by some places.
And what about the caste too? Like I know like poverty eradication stuff, but like I know they abolished caste, but like those are very hard. You know, as an American, you know,
But
you still
one
see like
thing-
racial inequality like long after it was abolished too. Like it's
So-
very hard to change that.
So one thing you will realize watching the Bollywood films from this era, and how the Sarpata we were talking about the last week. So you will see the talk of poverty. You will see the talk of people staying there, but for example, like this film doesn't state like which caste they come from, but in other films where wherever there is a rag to riches film in Bollywood, most of the time it would be some upper caste person by their ill fate, because of their ill fate, started living in the poor slums, and then they become rich again, or like overcome their struggle. It's not someone from that community like who forever, for their whole generations, like for lived that poor or was barred from education or something like that, coming up and then like conquering. You will not see those characters. It would be always like someone who had been wronged, or whose father had been wronged, or someone had been wronged, like taken off their things, they became poor, and then they come off victorious at the end of the film.
I would
So
say
why?
that's like a strength of this movie though, because it's like it makes it more relatable. The fact that there's no caste ties or anything makes it a lot more relatable to like the global audience. But I'm wondering if if this film was more influenced by what was going on domestically or globally, because there was a big global socialist movement already, and the hippies movement as well in the 70s. So was this actually more influenced by like the global?
It might as well be, yeah, because if the dance numbers and everything is getting influenced, I think that the dialogues and the hippies were very well received in India, I guess, that point of time. I think
London went to India.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Beatles were just traveling around there. Yeah.
yeah, so they had a huge influence on things, and maybe like, yeah, so I think it was a cultural exchange, and these things were taken up. But the thing, the anti-rich state, feelings, the anti-rich vibe of Bollywood films have been a very common theme in Bollywood. That's what the bottom line. Like I grew up with film,
Yeah.
like so many films.
But that's changed a lot.
That's changed a lot in the
Because
90s.
now I feel like they match like America. Because like in America in the 70s, there was some working class, film language going on, and that's changed as well. Where like, the characters just want to be rich, or like it's okay to be rich, or that's not an antagonism to be rich.
Yeah.
Like everyone, like literally the biggest superhero right now is Tony Stark, a billionaire. You know what I mean? And that's not an issue or problem.
Actually, an interesting point is that this movie, Disco Dancer, was the highest grossing Bollywood film until the 90s when Hum Apke Hai Kun came out, and that became the highest grossing film.
But
And
that's
so-
about
and
a rich
so-
family.
Right, exactly. So the theme, like from Disco Dancer being anti-rich, and now you have this movie surpassing it in the box office, and it's kind of glamorizing wealth and rich families. So it's completely
It's a radical
opposite.
culture shift.
Yeah.
I think
Radical culture
that
shift.
kind of kind of reflects the globalization and economic change in India.
People-
Like people
Yeah,
started dreaming
from
of being
socialist
rich.
to neoliberal. I
Yeah.
mean, you just see the
Yes.
switch.
I think also in the another thing is like there were no rarely good rich people in the films. Like it was kind of undertone that if you are rich, you become rich by doing something bad.
Which is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
yeah,
Like,
I mean,
you have
so,
to be a mean psycho that doesn't care about other people to like if you're the kid of that wealth, no, not necessarily, but to gain that wealth initially, yes.
And then by the 90s, they're not even analyzing the source of wealth. They're just
Correct.
like, look at our lifestyles. We're living,
Yes.
we're
Correct.
living so lavishly, be jealous,
And
they
it
never
was
talk
strive for
about
this.
they
And
never
like-
talk about how they get the wealth. Even for the Kejos film, like they never discuss or
Right.
never even like show a little bit. I think the Hum Aapke Hai Kaun's predecessors, the movie that the same director made, Maine Pyar Kiya or something like that. So there at least we see an industry, like the character is like indoctrinated in the like he was just graduate from some university in abroad, and he comes back to the world and he's given like an officer's job like that in his father's factory. So at least we see that there is a factory, but seen from Hum
Yeah.
Aapke Hai Kaun, there is nothing like they're just rich.
Yeah, and in this movie, in Disco Dancer, like it just assumes that because he's a landlord, he's bad. Like it takes the stance that landlords are bad and business owners are bad, and then later in the other films, like it's not. If you own a business, that you could still be a really cool, great person, and chicks love you and everything. There's not the assumption that you're
David
like,
Brown
evil.
is a good guy. He's rich. He's David Brown.
the agent.
Yeah.
Why is his name so iconic? David Brown.
Because he says his name so many times. I'm David Brown. Like as if like whenever he says he's David Brown, people would supposed to know who he is.
I have a white
Like,
person's name. Please listen to me. So, okay, USSR. Again, shout out to this Blue Sky user who I think really doesn't like our podcast. But they recommended me this book called Leave Disco Dancer Alone, Indian Cinema and Soviet Movie-Going After Stalin. The author is Sudha Rajagopalan. And I'm just going to basically just give some brief history here. So during Stalin's time, there weren't a lot of international films that were let in. So it was just, they were just kind of allowed to see like other Russian-made films. So Stalin died in 1953. And in 1954, right away, there was like an international film festival. And they brought in movies from other countries and stuff. And the big first hit in the USSR was Awara.
Awara, yeah.
Anyways,
I
Awara
know
was a
the film.
huge hit. And then more and more Indian films started like flooding in. And just Russian audiences really, really loved Indian films. And then so when Disco Dancer shows up, Disco Dancer becomes the highest grossing film in the USSR, period. A couple interesting things is, when the USSR slightly opened up with international film, they didn't want to import a ton of Western movies, and there just weren't a lot of countries producing films at the time. And India, because it was very socialist, but
It was close to Soviet
conservative,
as well.
like very family values.
Yeah.
They're not celebrating wealth at the time. Like they have these kind of shared values. It was very easy to import these Indian films. They would dub them in Russian. They would usually cut them down to like 2 to 2.5 hours, or like serialize them, like make 1, 2, or 3 parts. The book surveyed some people that grew up in the USSR and saw these films. And so these are some of the reasons when they watched the Russian films in the USSR, a lot of them are about big grand projects, right? Or like liberating people, or, what it means to be like a good worker or like a good member of society. But they all have like kind of lessons in them or some message that they want you to receive. People really like the Indian films because it had good music with beautiful Indian dances. The songs had like unusual rhythms, and they just really liked how kind of carefree they are compared to like the really kind of stoic Russian ones, Okay, so this is a quote from someone. So for years, everything was off limits to us. But then Stalin died in 1953, and the Indian film Vagabond opened the festival in 1954. This was, I must say, an eye-opener. It opened a new world, one which we did not know, and it came at a time when we were in a mood to celebrate. These were my college years, and Indian films were that celebration. Their aesthetic and their music, Indian films were a component in that new openness after 1953, and showed that our world had expanded suddenly. Oh, and someone else said, Indian cinema was a diversion, pure joy, and it radiated warmth. When I was young, Indian cinema was where you took young girls. Then we both emerged happy and contented, having watched beautiful relationships unfold on screen. We both wanted the same. We came out arm in arm. Only Indian films did that for us.
Wow.
That's actually so interesting.
Indian movies saved my marriage. Save our
Or
family.
started my marriage.
It's interesting that, like, specifically we would take the young girls there. Because actually,
Yeah.
Eastern European women have a lot of similar beliefs, I'd say,
Yeah.
traditional beliefs to, like, Indian
It was
women.
conservative family stuff.
Yeah.
No, so here's another one. Someone says, everything in the West is calculated, superficial, but Indians and Russians seem not to crave possessions. The absence of a pragmatic streak unites us. For our people, what is important is community, sitting around with people, talking, singing. Our lives compel us Russians to be this way, whereas your philosophy compels Indians to live the same way. So yeah, it's family-oriented, community-oriented. They were similar in way more ways than they were with the West, with the individualistic consumption going on.
Wow.
Wow, I would love to go to, like, an Indian-Russian party. You just see a ton of whiskey and vodka.
So, Disco Dancer, when it came out, became a landmark film. So it came out in 1984, and it drew 60.9 million Soviet viewers, which was the highest turnout for any film that year, domestic and international. It made about like the equivalent of 75 million domestically now.
Wow.
Gigantic at the time. So one admirer of the film talked about how the viewers identified with the hero, with Jimmy. She wrote that the auditorium rejoiced at his success, She was pained when he lost his mother and then grandfather. It was so distressing to see his tears, his pain, the horror in his eyes, his fear, and his hatred for the bandits.
Yeah. So
Spoken like someone who's never watched Bollywood and is not used to the intense emotions it derives.
no, I mean, one thing I really wanna like it kept on occurring to me again and again because like when we see for Russian films like USSR film, they're so grounded, like
Yeah.
they're so realistic, right?
Yeah.
But like Disco Dancer like gets rid of all kind of realism in it.
There's
Like
no. It's
how-
a dream state the entire time.
Yeah, so this is the how the auditorium is like. There is like how the production of the auditorium where they're performing their disco dances, right? It looks nothing like how an auditorium looks in India for a real life. How the music is being played, how the tracks are being like put again and again on top. Like he's playing, the kid's playing toy guitar, and then they just percussions just comes in, like the very nice electronic music comes in, and also the fight sequence, also the everything. Like, this film is not grounded at all. It creates the images that can be inspired from like the story. It's just like dream sequence stories. Like
Yeah,
it just like
and you don't need it. It doesn't need a ton of language.
yes,
So like, there's not a huge translation barrier.
yeah,
And yeah, the Russian films are very kind of stoic, and yeah, the landscapes are kind of, the countryside and stuff. And then you just see these like crazy glitzy lights of the disco, and like locations don't make sense from one edit to another, and everything is like disjointed, and this like just sheen had glow to it. It must have been like mesmerizing, honestly, like revolutionary kind of to watch at the time.
yeah.
Another thing I want to mention too, really quick, the last quote is funny because the last person said that Indian films taught one to love without an eye for personal gain. They suggested that people that were hostile to these films had perhaps never loved like that. Another viewer praised Indian films because even though they were repetitious and commercial, they portrayed real men, which I think is very interesting though, because this shows how much variable is in how people perceive masculinity. Because I think a lot of people like would not see like a Bollywood film now and be like, that's a real man. Or a lot of people see Russian films and they're like, that is what a real man is. But meanwhile, women in Russia are like, no, that Indian guy is what a real man is. Everyone has different definitions of what real men are. And for them, it was like this disco dancer guy,
So Adam, you've watched a few Russian movies now.
Yeah.
Have you seen elements of Disco Dancer influencing any of the films you've watched?
It's a really good question. I have not at all. I haven't seen. So yeah, with my Russian friends, we watch Russian movies weekly too, and I've been watching old USSR films and occasionally some post-USSR films. The post-USSR films are so bleak. I really wish they had copied more from Bollywood films, but it's after the USSR, everyone is about like fighting for nothing and trying to find meaning in the world, and just like what to do after you lose everything. It's all very bleak. And then the USSR films are really great, but they're not musicals and they're not as like outlandish as any of the Bollywood films.
I'm so surprised at the impact it had, the influence it had
Yeah, I know.
in Russia, and like no directors decided to adopt that approach and
It's
kind of
interesting,
build
right?
on it. Yeah.
Because I would love to see some fusion of that. I would love to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, that becomes Hollywood.
Not really. Yeah, wait.
A musical in Hollywood.
So yeah, real men are guys that like, love their moms a lot. Their marriage is kind of secondary, and they don't want money. They just want to dance and stuff. For a time that was masculinity. Now it's gone completely the opposite, where doing anything artistic is like a waste of time, and you just need to make as much money as possible for some circles.
The mother complex is like so common in Indian art, like Indian narratives. Like it can be story, it can be novel, it can be film. The mother complex is it's so common in Bollywood. Like we all grew up so much, so that's why like you remember like when Batman versus Superman came, and then everyone was like, what the Martha thing is going on? Like why is
Oh,
that
it was
important?
it was an Indian film secretly.
Yeah, and then why is like, and then while I was watching, I was like, I totally understand. Okay, yeah, he feels for his mother, and then like when like he can totally understands what Superman is going through. So this mother complex that we see here, like everything is for the mother. This guy is doing for the mother. It's another very common trope in Indian Bollywood film, even like local regional films
There's
everywhere.
no dad. His dad isn't even talked to.
Dads
What
are
happened to the
dads
dad
are
again?
very
passed away.
rare. Like there are few films where they avenge their father and
I mean, in
like
Disco Dancer, what happened to the dad? I
he
forget.
just died. He was there
Yeah, you
poor. He
don't
just
see him in
died.
the film
It's
at
not
all.
it's not mentioned at all. But the bond between the mother and the son, because also like we are seeing Karan Arjun, right? That was like which we like abandoned midway. So there also it was mother, and then like yeah, I mean there have been so many work of narratives where the mother and son dynamics is in the center plot,
Which you
and
don't
it's,
see in American films.
yeah, which is very rare. Which is not there
But the
at
mama's
all.
boy trope in like South Asia is a very common
Right.
trope anyway.
Yeah.
But it's a huge strength in Indian films and a huge weakness in American films. Like, I mean, like if you see a mama boy's character in an American film, he's a loser.
Mm-hmm.
The guy loves his mom, he's a huge loser. But in India, in these movies that we're watching, there's no greater trait than being completely devoted to your mom. So it is very interesting because America
Yeah.
does have a big like hate your parents streak. Like a lot of our culture is fuck your parents.
I mean, like you guys want to get out of the house away from your parents.
Yeah.
But like in Asia, it's normal for kids to stay with their parents because it's an act of like looking after them,
Yeah.
repaying their kindness. It's very different.
Yeah, like there's no concept of I'm 18, I'm gonna leave now. You know?
I was talking to a Thai girl who lives with her family, and I was explaining like, yeah, it's normal here, but in America, like, there's nothing more embarrassing for both sides, for the parents and for the kids. Like, the kids are embarrassed to live at home. The parents are embarrassed that their kids live with them and aren't like living on their own. It's just an embarrassing scenario all around, but it's completely the opposite here. Where like, if you live alone, those parents, that's very embarrassing for the parents if you don't live with the family. You know.
The mama's boy thing was also in Saparta, right?
It
That
was.
but it's
It's
nice
in
to
every
see.
single Indian
Right,
film we've ever
but
watched.
it's nice to see because in that movie the mom was quite aggressive and unsupportive of his dreams, but here the mom is like this lovely, precious mom. She's so supportive of him throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Well, that's because
She even like
No,
sacrifices
Sarpata,
her life.
even
for
though he
him.
was mama's boy, but he was like it was a kind of an antithesis of being a mama's boy, right? Like he has to go against his mother and then like mother's wish and has to prove himself. But here it's like it's total devotion and the whole
your mom is
life
perfect.
and
Obey
his
everything
life,
she
whole
says.
thing, everything is just goes around it. Yeah.
Were you? Was your family like that?
Like what? Like
Mother worship?
Are you a mama's boy?
yeah, I'm a mama's boy, I guess. Yeah.
Are
But
you
is that
Nikki?
is everyone like? Do you
Is
brag
everyone,
about-
I think. No, it's like it's very yeah, it is there because first of all, the more favor that the sons get over daughters,
Yeah.
it's like for being in a hugely patriarchal society.
Same in
That's-
Thailand. This was
That's
Very
one
unfortunate.
thing, and then also, but I think that's common in many countries, patriarchal
is.
things. But the mother son thing, like the not son, like the mother whole thing. It's like our land is like motherland. It has been depicted by mother characters as a what do you call it, as a metaphor so many times in work of art, like depicting the land as mother, like the
Yeah.
so it has been in very there is a mother India is there's a very prominent character in Bollywood film history. So this keeps on coming, and then even there has been so many artwork, like paintings and everything. So that's why, and also like if you see from the religious side, there are like the mother goddess are like very prominent sect of god is, and like it's like a worshipping of the power. So it kind of has everything is kind of connected. So these things are like not uncommon
in
at
these
all.
movies, like the greatest gift is being a woman that bears a son, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the greatest.
But
thing
that's not explicitly told in the movies, but that's the reality of the society. Like worth is when you have a son.
Right, that's fucked.
Yeah, if you only have daughters, like you were worthless.
That sucks so bad.
Yeah, maybe like you were more worthless than having no.
So like
I mean,
you're,
throwing baby
no
girls
kids.
down a well was not an uncommon practice. Just some
yeah,
kids.
and that sucks
Fe-
so
female
bad. If you're,
feticide
if they
was-
worship
is a
women,
real
but
thing.
their only goal is to like because they could make more men, because they're
exactly.
men machines.
Yeah, female feticide is like bad.
One thing I noticed in these films, I mean, I always imagine like Indian families to be quite large, but these guys don't have like tons of siblings ever. Like in Disco Dancer, he has no siblings. It's just him and his mom. And a lot
They
of
were
movies we
poor.
watch, there's like not a lot of siblings, but is that like a Bollywood thing that's not normal, or are Indian families kind of small?
Definitely not small. I would.
Yeah,
say.
so what the
Definitely
fuck?
not.
So why are they disconnected?
Yeah, very interesting point. I don't know, to be honest, like what was going on. No, but there are brothers.
Cheaper,
There are
with
brothers
less
in
names.
films. No, there are films where there are 2 or 3 brothers. I think
It's still
that
not a
was.
lot.
So I haven't watched films from like 40s, 50s, where my parents' generation's from, like when there used to be like 7, 6, 7 average number. But I think like around 70s, 80s, the number kind of came down to 2, 3, kind of. So it kind of shows that in the Bollywood, like if the number came down to
I
2,
don't know. Like my
3,
mom's telling me
4,
there's
like,
7 of them. 7. You know?
Yeah.
So it's like just a very big family in general.
is it, yeah.
But
So
is that, I mean, I don't know. The movies you see, they're not huge families, right? Am I wrong? Is it just the movies we've
Yeah,
seen?
no, you've made an interesting point. I'm trying to like rack my memory and think of
Yeah.
all the movies, and I feel like when there are siblings, they usually plays like towards the plot. It's not just there. So maybe if there's no use for it in the plot
you have
line,
to
they
watch
just
this.
don't bother.
It was to watch this most excruciating, like enraging film called Bhagwan. It's like, so I think we should watch that film because it has like yeah, that has a big family, and it's villainize individualism of the sons and of the children, and like it's so enraging. We used to mock it that like this is the trump card that the parents play on their sons, that showing this film like, see, you will treat us when we're old like that. And it was like the weirdest film, one of the weirdest films I've ever seen from Bollywood. It's so bad and it's so pathetic. Bhagwan.
That just means God, right?
I think so, yeah. But I don't know
Is it a
what
new
what
film?
this.
It
No,
sounds
it's from around early 2000s. Yeah.
Next
And it's yeah, so that one had like many sons, and like 4 or 5 sons or something. So now I come to think of it, maybe like they didn't do it because it would been too many characters,
much money and stuff.
too many characters to play.
One of the things too, again, because he's like constantly just against rich people and like just doesn't give a shit, and I think it's very commendable and fun to watch, frankly. And like I wish more movies just had characters like him that were just like kind of rude to like people he didn't like. But I like the most baller ass moment ever in this movie was when he's gonna marry that guy's daughter, and I think it's after he crashes the car. And he tells the dad, he's like, the rich antagonist, he's like, I'm gonna marry the daughter. And the best quote he says is, when I have time, I will come to you and ask for Rita's hand in marriage. He's like, fuck you, I'm gonna marry her whenever I want. When I have the time, I'll ask you and you're gonna give it to me. And it's so
Yeah.
insanely baller. Like, that shit was just like, like, you just don't see that nowadays of just people being like that. And that was just incredibly dope, and I want to see that more.
I mean, he even breaks into the home and takes her away from the
Yeah,
house.
because she calls him and says like that my father is not letting me go, and he just walks in like she's an adult, like you
He's
have to
afraid
let
of
it go.
nothing.
Yeah.
He's afraid of nothing, and I really like
Except
that.
maybe guitars.
Yeah, except guitars, they freak him out. But like, he has no fear of death. He just
Yeah.
like tells all these really powerful people to their face, like, you suck. And like, you just don't see that often. I thought that was so badass.
That is a very common trope they showed, that you remember the scene where like when he takes the scene Nikki just mentioned, where he goes into his house and takes his daughter and live with the daughter, right? And the next scene is like he calls the police, and the police is talking to him. So this is another thing that happens in India so much. Like, if a rich parent calls the police and says like, oh, my adult daughter has eloped with this guy or something, the police will, because of the influence of this guy, police will actually make some stupid case of like abduction or something and
What,
put that
Amber
guy.
Alert for a proper grown adult.
Yes, they do that, and they will put, if they, so here the police couldn't do it because he's a rich star. That's why he had the influence to not, so that, but if he's like the downtrodden, like a guy from a slum or something, the police will get that guy behind the bars. The girl will go back to the family. The girl will be brainwashed, like tortured, like tactics, like, you know, scare tactics or whatever. They will shush the girl, and most of the time the guy will be behind the bars and will face consequences for eloping with a rich girl.
Yeah.
Even though both of them were adults.
Yeah.
Like the girl will be pressurized by the family to say things in the court and stuff like that. Eventually they will do the like blackmail, emotional blackmail, like multitude of plethora of tactics they will do.
It is surprising that Rita in the film, even as a child, like she gets beat up by her dad, right, when she invites him. So she
Yes.
slaps her, and then even when she goes on a date with him as an adult, the dad slaps her again. So it's
Yeah.
like kind of interesting that despite all of this harassment, does this count as harassment now, Killy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, despite all this abuse,
It's physical.
like she's still very headstrong, and she still does what she wants.
Yeah, everything Jimmy does would kind of sentence you to death if you did it in real life at that time, I feel. But he's not ever worried about that.
What did he do?
Just going around telling rich people, like, fuck off. And I'm
Well,
gonna marry
he
your
has
daughter.
enough fame at this point.
He's
that's-
a rich star. That's
Yeah, but he had that attitude before he was famous. And then what I really liked was when he did get famous, because some people are like, oh, now I'm famous. I think if they made this movie now, they'd be like, oh, I'm famous and I forgive you. And that's the lesson you take, is like, forgive everyone or don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But no, he's like, I'm going to leverage all my power and destroy you. You can't do anything about it because I'm huge and famous now. And I will use all this leverage to hurt you. And that
Yeah,
is
I
like
love
so
that.
fucking dope. And what should be done, like in just all scenarios. But I think now it's always like, no, don't hurt him. Or, the rich landlord was misunderstood and bullied as a kid, and so, like, you know, now we can all get along and get married, and now the dad likes everyone. No. Everyone's like, fuck you, dad, and the guy's like, I'm gonna use, and Jimmy uses all his power against him and is not humble and is not gracious. He's gracious to, like, all his old bandmates and everyone that supported him, but he also uses his power to punish, and I like that. You don't see that.
You do see parallels in real life, like today at least, with the shooting of the CEO director. Like that was kind of celebrated.
Yeah,
to
that
some
was
degree,
celebrated
right?
publicly
So-
by everyone,
yeah.
but you would never see a movie with
glorifying
that guy
that
as the
guy.
hero.
Yeah.
Because they don't want you to work to look up to this guy, which is why when it does happen, everyone is
Yeah.
so happy and it's universally praised. We all still in our hearts hate rich people, but we're just told constantly on media that they're like good or like that you can, you know, like relatable in some way. They're not, and we should use whatever power we have to punish them and
70s,
tell them to
80s.
fuck off. But like we're just trained not to, that they're nice because they're the people that produce our media. So their whole thing is like, hey, we're actually really cool.
70s Bollywood would have made that film where that guy is hero. I mean, those of films were like, yeah, killing the rich guys most of the time.
I say
Right,
we
that's
bring
what I'm
that
saying.
back. Bring that
And
back.
That's what I'm saying. It would
while
be so popular.
while romancing their daughters.
That's such a
that was
baller ass
that
move.
was like so common. Like the rich villain guy, their daughter being romanced by the hero, and the guy get killed by the hero as well. Like
Because
so that
to a
was
rich
like
guy, there's no greater punishment than a poor person fucking your daughter, and then you die from him. And they're right. It is a horrible like fate for them, and more movies should be like that. Like just fucking rich dudes' daughters and then killing the rich guy. I mean, people would fucking love that movie, but no one would make that now. So I love like what he was saying was normal back then, but now it's like absolutely radical. I think, and it shouldn't
Yeah.
be. You know,
I think it's radical now, like to make those kind of statements.
It is absolutely. Netflix would never make a show like this where like he just makes it his life mission to just like hurt a landlord. Like it just wouldn't really happen. And he's like, I hate money. I don't need it. I give it back. We're gonna redistribute all this. Like anyone that helped me in my past life, I give money to. I have talent. No one can take that away from me. I don't give a shit. Just incredible charisma.
Rita being all like, "That's so hot, you killed my family."
She's like, you're right, they were bad.
Does he kill
And your dancing is really good.
Does he kill the guy or he gets arrested at the end? Like,
I honestly
did
can't
the father
remember.
actually die? Like the main antagonist?
Did he not die? Did I remember this all wrong?
I
No,
can't
no.
remember,
I don't know.
honestly.
I can't remember.
He's
as well.
taken down in some way, shape,
Yeah.
or form.
Far into their home.
Yeah.
That was so fun, too.
But the son does die.
5,000.
The son dies.
son dies.
The son dies.
He killed my brother. I mean, he was a heroin addict, so I guess he deserved to die.
Well, yeah, his son is a huge piece of shit, too, and was like, and Jimmy tells him, like, you bought your fame. I have talent. I don't need to buy it. Like, you have nothing. And it kind of sucks that then when he does sing or dance, it's not very good. So you have a harder time believing it.
He would even. So he was being pulled by the female artist he was with. Like she was
she
taking
was so much better.
She
yeah.
was singing more.
He was
She
just
was
standing there
on.
brooding.
She was mostly performing, and he was just sidekicking her. Like like.
We should say all the dance numbers are like mostly him kind of like doing Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future when he's like playing guitar at his parents' prom and just kind of sliding around the floor and stuff. And then when they do the big disco international tournament, it's clear like nobody really talked before they started filming. So all the other countries, they're like, it's like France, and they're just kind of like shuffling around on stage, not dancing with each other, just kind of like dancing on their own to music that's not playing in the auditorium. And then they cut to an audience that's in a completely different auditorium getting filmed, clapping. Like the stage work doesn't make any sense. And I gotta say, when Jimmy does come back for his big disco revival, he does like a Krishna song. It's not disco whatsoever.
Yeah.
He does like a song praising Krishna and is like dressed like a bird.
Dharti pe aaja tu. So he has been calling gods to come to the earth for many times. Like he did it for Jesus, he did it for Krishna.
Oh shit, we didn't even talk about that. Yeah, there was a whole song about Jesus.
Yeah.
And why? We never,
Because he was in Goa.
is that why?
Maybe I think that was one of the reasons. Because Goa is very Christian.
He has this whole Christian song. There's shots of Jesus in these, so it's very explicit. It's about Jesus. He says Jesus' name over and over.
Yeah,
again.
Jesus come back
But
to
then-
us. Like
yeah.
that's what the song. And then again Krishna come back.
And
Like
then
everyone
he
come
goes
back.
and sings a whole song about Krishna, and they don't really comment on that. I don't know why they did that Christian song. Why did they? That was weird.
It seemed kind of shoehorned in, actually.
But then it
God is
would make
God.
sense if like, oh, they wanted to be Christian, but then they do the Krishna thing and the
Yeah, God is God. Like
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Maybe spirit of inclusiveness. Both religions are represented in India, and like with a guy
Yeah.
named David Brown, I'm guessing he has Christian
sounds
background,
Jewish
right?
to me.
in India.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to know more about David Brown. He has a mysterious past. And I think
Actually,
he
the
stole an
guy who
identity.
played David Brown, he's like a terrific actor. Like he has so many good films up on his sleeves. Like
What is his real name? We need to
Om
know.
Puri.
What?
Om Puri.
Home Puri.
Om O-M Puri. P-U-R-I.
Well, that's drastically different from David Brown.
Yeah, but he's a really good actor,
Well,
and
you know,
he has
actors,
done so many
you know,
good
Tom
films.
Cruise plays his characters that aren't called Tom Cruise.
No,
that are very different from his real name.
I don't know
It
why I
doesn't have
expected
to
him to have
rhyme.
like another white name, like John Smith or something.
Well,
That's
it's
a
very different
Christian
than the
name.
character he
You cannot,
plays.
like, it's a Christian name.
Mm.
Yeah. The Indian Christians have Christian names.
Yeah.
A lot. Yeah. So, yeah.
So, anyways, Disco Dancer was a big hit. I fucking loved it. I was expecting to watch like a B movie, cheesy thing, but I really, really liked this. Like, I really, like, we were clapping. We were having a great time watching it. We watched it with a group of people. It was a blast. Like, I don't think it's that corny now just because you don't see content like this often.
So, one international dance competition to another. Like, how does it measure up to Happy New Year's dance competition?
They're very similar.
They're very similar.
There's
yeah.
no child death trap in this one. There's no place for the dancers to die randomly on stage, which was considerate.
That was also a revenge flick, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but this one, in Happy New Year, they wanted to steal money and get rich.
Yeah.
And
but
in this
here-
one, he wants to overturn
and
the oligarchy.
But
Yeah.
like the Indians' performance are always taking like too much time, taking center stage. With Disco Dancer, it's like, you know, him being scared of guitars. And realistically speaking,
So who won? Like Jimmy won or his girlfriend
not
won?
remember anything that
Because
happened
Yeah, I
in this
remember
film?
the ending. It was such an abrupt ending. I think we were like trying to
because
process.
So
it ended
fast.
because there was open firing in the auditorium itself, right? Like Ober's gang came and fired, so that's why the I think the competition kind of.
So
This
there
is
was-
sad because Winnie actually watched this one. He
I
can't
know,
remember.
I know, and that goes to show what I think about the film. I stayed up way past my bedtime to finish it.
But yeah, like the song "Calling Jimmy to Dance" is like way more famous than.
I was gonna say, realistically speaking, the show would have just ended. Like they would have stopped him from performing, but the whole crowd was just
Waiting for
enamored with
Jimmy,
him.
he is the disco king.
But just
Yeah.
like in Happy New Year, it's always he saved this child from dying, from getting impaled. Like Indians are the true heroes
Always,
of competitions.
always.
Yes.
Something else I learned from this movie is that sand is a very natural physical therapy. Right? Like
Oh, yeah, walking.
his legs are completely destroyed, and then Rita takes him and like helps him walk on the sand in the beach, and 1 month later he's like performing at
Oh,
this
yeah.
international disco competition and
Yeah, so
wins.
guys, like whenever you have like a broken leg, try to start the therapy, the physical therapy, walking on the sand. Like I think it helps
With a woman
because
holding your hand specifically.
oh, that I think will.
And the daughter
If
of
it's your
your
mom,
enemy,
if it's your mom, you get healed quicker. If it's a normal woman, non-mother figure, it takes a month.
Yeah, take it from us medical professionals. This is
Also, so the rich guy got arrested. He didn't die at the end.
okay, but like it did seem like
Close enough.
people were dying left and right. I mean, he was a fucking murderer.
There's a ton of people dying. They weren't sad about anyone dying in this.
No, death is just another reality of life. So yeah,
Thanks, Gilly.
bad guys dying. It's like, of course, why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they should.
They were all addicted to heroin, so they deserve to die.
Doesn't matter, heroin or not. Like bad guy, you're a bad guy. You should die. That's it.
Winnie, closing thoughts for you?
No, I think it was a great film. It's one of the movies that I've finished watching in a while. I can see why.
Did you watch it again?
Would I watch it again? Yeah, I think it's a light watch for a Bollywood film. Like Bollywood films tend to be a little bit heavy. I feel like I always need to mentally prepare. But this was like a light, nice watch. Everything's kind of predictable. You know what's gonna happen. And
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Bollywood
I
fans
think
listening
overall
to
good film.
this can really think about our curation of films. Like saying Bollywood films tend to be very heavy.
I mean, like you
They're
have
not.
to be ready for a roller coaster, Like this
Yeah.
didn't feel like as big of a roller coaster, and I like the
Oh, yeah.
element of like going against the rich, which is new. It's not something that I think we've seen in most of the Bollywood films that we've watched, so it was quite refreshing.
I love this film actually. I would totally watch this again. I
Yeah,
really
and
like
then-
it, and not like not ironically. Like I think it's a good film. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I think one thing I love about this movie is that it has a lot of influence to a lot of people. My partner is a DJ, and she even knows the Jimmy song.
Yeah, that's crazy.
DJs play it. Like everyone knows it. Like
When
it's
we played on
recognizable.
YouTube, it had 122 million views.
It's crazy.
Crazy huge hit.
Yeah. I just love. I mean, it's an easy to watch movie.
Yeah.
Unlike the other movies that we've been watching, like 3 hour long
Yeah.
serious watching.
And it's free on YouTube.
Yeah, it's free on YouTube. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I shared it with friends, yeah. Because I was
Sure.
recommending it.
Hello guys, watch this film.
Yeah. Last thing, do we want to talk about what we did before we watched this movie together? And where we ate?
Oh yeah. So maybe I would say that we should make this tradition. So this was the first time we went to this Indian restaurant in Bangkok, which is renowned as one of the best Indian Punjabi restaurants, and we had a big fat meal with butter chicken, chicken tikka, all of the classics before watching the film, and I think that made the movie that much better because our bellies were full with curry.
Super full. And I want to know Killy's color method for the curry, please.
No, so the Indian curry is like when you go, like it's like depending on which region it's from. They have like this most complicated names of the curries, and then like so I tend to ask the waiter like the color of the curries so that like I have a guess like what
Do they
kind
know
of
what you're talking about, though?
what kind of taste that I can expect from those curries.
But
And
is that a normal question?
It
Winnie, is
is.
that a normal
It's a
question?
smart question.
I think the
It's a
way
very
Keely
smart
does
question.
it.
It's a
It's
very
just
smart
funny.
question.
Because
So
I
did-
cook, I know like if
Yeah.
a curry is like a green, then what to expect.
It's
if
a
the curry
valid
is
question. I think just the way that Keely goes about it is always hilarious. Every time we go eat Indian food, so is it red or brown curry? What is it like? Like it just goes up. The ordering takes like 5 to 10 minutes, and
Where'd it come from? What did the curry feel like?
no,
before?
asking the recipe is like a long answer. Like they have to
just tell me the color.
Yeah, tell me the color. I can guess.
But
it.
has that ever deceived you? Like, does the color ever?
Yeah, that can happen. Like a black one can be like a really sweet curry, but not usually. That's like really exceptional.
So
but
tell
I
us
can
about
usually.
your curry strategy. What color curry?
So
should we
red
be
ones are
going for?
kind of tangy because of tomato and stuff, and the spices tend to be like more towards raw. There's a raw flavor to the spices. The brown ones usually have like more like red chili and then more roasty kind of type. And the dark black one was are like very dried and how do I, like the spices are way more cooked and
What's your
stuff like-
favorite color?
like as darker as it goes, yeah.
The darker the better.
Yeah.
Like, so your favorite curry is black curry.
There are black curry, but the color comes from a particular.
So what's your
some
favorite
particular-
color? Curry.
Like dark brown, yeah.
So guys, if you're watching this,
No,
go
I
to
know.
any
I like a
restaurant.
yellow. I like a yellow one as well.
Go
But
check
that's
out
the
the dark
Mughlai
brown
one.
curry. I
Yeah,
highly
order the dark
recommend.
brown curry. Just
Yeah.
walk in and say that.
Can I have
Yeah.
the dark brown curry, please?
You should be part of
Yeah,
the curry
but
subreddit.
I think yellow curry is dal. I don't think there's any.
But
other
here
yellow.
is another thing. Like chicken tikka masala is not Indian food.
Oh, you know.
It's a British food.
Come on.
What's your
not do
butter
that.
chicken argument?
Let's not do
You guys
that.
were both talking about butter chicken.
No, butter chicken I was told also is a not Indian food, but I realized that it was made in India.
But didn't you guys say like the restaurant like lives or dies on the butter chicken or something?
What?
You guys talked a lot about how the importance of butter chicken.
Well,
or
I think
something.
that's just an easy gauge for the quality of food. That's a classic dish, but it can be made so differently because it's
Yeah.
like the main thing that most people will eat, even non-Indians. So some restaurants will try to cater it to like a wider palate and then tone down the flavors in that
Yeah.
process. So, the authenticity of a restaurant you can really tell based on the flavor of the butter chicken.
But what should it be? 'Cause,
I think
when I've
outside
had
of
it, it's been
India.
kind of Swedish.
I think
Like
that's
sweet.
true for outside of India because I've rarely seen people ordering butter chicken in
In
India.
India, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
because to you it's a British dish, which is about
No,
to offend
it's-
so many of our listeners. But okay.
Why
No,
do you
no, no.
think it's
Butter
so
chicken is not British.
But you thought that.
I thought that because it tastes so different. It's so
I mean, it's invented
not
by a Bangladeshi or some
blandy.
Indian guy who moved to the UK and like tried
No, I think
to-
that's chicken tikka masala.
Yeah, I think
Butter
is
chicken.
all-
I think like there was this restaurant I went in New Delhi, who claimed that they made butter chicken first, but nevertheless it was made for like a foreign palate.
Yeah.
Foreign taste palate.
How do you know that?
History. I mean, this is widely
Yeah, this
debated.
is like a known
This is so
information.
contentious on the internet.
I'm literally on Google right now. It says there's a headline that says Indians can decide whether or not they want to claim tikka masala.
But what about butter chicken? Is that even argued?
I'd say it's similar to chicken tikka, butter chicken tikka.
It's very similar. It's
Yeah.
both are like orange and yellow.
Why is tikka masala not? Okay, so it's made in England, but does it taste that different, or what's
No, the story of how chicken tikka masala was made is very interesting. It was made by Indian immigrants for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Like
that's-
it's like
yeah.
definitely Indian
But Brits will
immigrants.
try to
but
claim us, for a change when it benefits.
because they
their
don't have
cuisine.
anything else to claim for food. Like,
Come
come
on,
on,
don't hate on their
let them
bangers
have
and
one
mash.
curry. Like it's okay. We have tons.
Welcome to England. Our national dish is a chicken tikka masala.
That is so stupid. That is so
No,
offensive.
then let them have one curry. We have so many. Like it's
Yeah,
okay. Just keep one.
But do you like it?
Chicken tikka masala?
Yeah.
No, I'm not a big fan. I think maybe more. That's why I'm more lenient to take it because they can take it.
Take
Yeah.
it and go.
So here's what I found. In 2001, British Foreign Secretary Robin Cook mentioned tikka masala in a speech, acclaiming the benefits of Britain's multiculturalism, declaring chicken tikka masala is now a true British national dish, not only because it is the most popular, but because it is a perfect illustration of the way Britain absorbs and adapts external influences.
Fuck you.
That is hilarious.
Crazy.
So it was made in England.
Yeah, it
Yes,
was made
by
in England.
Indian
By
immigrants.
Indians.
Yes,
Yeah.
who had to. I think chicken tikka was already a thing, but they made the curry. They made it sweeter and everything to.
Yeah. What's the difference? Like, what's
But,
what? Because what makes tikka masala?
It's more tomato
I think in the
based.
tomato paste, and
Yeah.
like it was made for like a non-Indian taste palette. So to serve like not that having it has more creaminess,
Yeah.
it has more tomato and
If it was
stuff
made
like
by the
that.
British, it'd have like baked beans and running eggs in it.
No,
and
of
shit.
course it's not made by like
They try to fry it somehow.
British
Yeah.
ethnic people. Like it's of course like Indian ethnic people.
Yeah.
But
it's
it was
nice
kind of
though.
made for them. They were made for like both world. Like it is a middle ground
So
for
what
the both
Indian
world.
dish made in India would you recommend to a foreigner?
Just start with dal. Just start with dal.
Oh, you have to try chicken chop. Chop is like you have to try chop. Chop is like it can be beef chop, it can be chicken.
When he doesn't even know what
I
you're
don't even know what
talking
chop
about.
is. Is that north or south?
It's very naughty.
Oh, okay, I don't
It's a very Mughlai dish.
Yeah.
It's very rich in oil. I mean, it's best. It's really good. Yeah.
Like chicken
It's kind
masala
of
would
looks
be the,
like yellow.
for
but-
us, like growing up, chicken curry, like chicken
Chicken
masala curry. is the
masala
same.
curry is like
It's
a
just a
very
classic.
generic name. It can be like very different in everywhere because it's a very generic name.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe my grandma's chicken curry, but it's like brown is masala. That's like
Yeah,
stronger
exactly.
masala taste. Brown.
Yeah.
We don't have the red.
I mean,
what was your
it's
family dish?
Yeah, that we would
Yeah.
have the chicken curry, and then we would have papaya salad because they were all like born in Ubon in the northeast.
That's
of
so
Thailand.
healthy.
So it was a very
That's so
like,
healthy.
Thai
Yeah.
food and Indian food on the same table.
Very
but it was always
interesting.
dal, like aloo gobi, chicken curry,
I also
yeah,
just
saag,
chicken
saag
chop.
paneer, things
Try
like that.
try chicken chop or beef chop. It's amazing
Yeah.
with biryani or
I like
bread.
masala. I think tikka masala is the best, and I don't really want to try anything else.
No, you have to try it. Yeah. I'll find out where we can get. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, this
Okay.
is a long conversation about curries.
from disco
More
dancer.
to come.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Now I'm hungry. Okay. Okay. Bye.